Well, SpongeBob, do you remember where the formula is yet?
Not yet, Sandy, but I'm pretty sure it's somewhere I go all the time and a place I love to be.
Remember when we practiced karate all day?
Do I ever? SpongeBob is my name-o, karate is my game-o. Hi-yow!
This kick will burn your socks off and taste red on chicken. Hey!
Sandy, you are a one-squirrel demolition crew. I hope nobody was using that wall.
Welcome to Karate Island, the level with more enemies than the Mermalair. Now we are going to run past the enemies in this very first bit, because we'll be fighting plenty of them later when it's mandatory. You can see a treehouse over to my right here in the opening area, and that's actually where the level ends at, if I recall correctly. I do also recall this level being the longest one, but you better strap yourself in, because we're not stopping until we finish the game this time. But there is better design here than nearly everywhere else except for the Squidward boss, so it's not all bad. This is one of those more difficult Boombot mazes I mentioned, but first we're going to need to get rid of all the enemies if we want to even have a hope of steering the Boombot. And that's what this power-up hidden in the corner is for. Note that we can deflect the Boombot's shot while we're playing as Sandy, but we don't want to do that, because that'll make its timer start ticking before we want it to. So there are two timers here. There's the timer for the maze that comes up out of the sand, and the timer on the Boombot before it explodes. The timer on the maze is pretty lenient, but it's a lot easier to accidentally steer yourself into the gum bungee cords this time, and then get knocked into the sand. And now it's time for a very small hallway devoid of game design. Before we complete the main objective of this room, we want to use these bounce pads in order to jump up and get some extra crates. There's no 3 up this time, just a bunch of crates to smash. But really, do you need a better reason than that? Because if you do need a better reason than that, that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with you. I just think it's pretty fun. There's a rotating power-up in this room, and the Squidward power-up is actually perfect, so we're going to wait to grab that one. The reason it's perfect is because there are so many conveyor belts that we would have to jump over or move around with the other characters, but we can just shoot over them with Squidward. Now, I thought we would get them all with Squidward, but it turned out there were a couple hiding near the back, which is fine. We can go get those, no problem. Now, these conveyor belts aren't just here to keep us out of the sand. They're actually our next platforming challenge. But we can bypass this challenge entirely through a method that the developers really should have seen coming. Who knows, though, maybe they thought it was funny. Something I don't really care for in this Karate Island level is that some of the background is reused from the Kelp Forest stage. And the music is also reused from the Kelp Forest stage. After we turn this wheel, the conveyor belts go up. But we can just hop on the second to last belt while it's still, moving upward. So we can bypass the challenge entirely. And there unfortunately doesn't appear to be any way to destroy these stone Squidward faces here, because there's no buff SpongeBob power-up before this slide.
This is as happy as that.
Here's 25 cents worth of whooping I found between the cushions.
Sandy occasionally shows up like that to deliver challenges, but this isn't really a karate challenge so much as don't steer the Boombot into the sand challenge. We do actually have to get off and back on the Boombot in order to spin these wheels and complete the maze, but that's not as scary as it sounds because the Boombot timer is really long. The scariest thing is definitely the gum bungee cords. Getting really close to bumping into those. But after we reach the end, the Boombot's timer is still in the green, so we're going to have to destroy it manually and hop up here. Here's something that almost makes good use of SpongeBob's extremely precise controls. Because of the fast movement of the boxes and the way they spin, it's actually important that we adjust ourselves with nearly each jump, or we'll overshoot it or fall off the side of one of the boxes. And for some reason, I fall up here on these really easy jumps that no one should miss. If you guessed that up ahead is another small hallway, you would be correct in that guess. There's a lot of these tiny hallways in this game. This one's actually kind of cool though, because it is filled with robots, but instead of fighting them all, we're going to jump past them and grab the Patrick power-up. And this is really the only thing the Patrick power-up does in this hallway, because after this it just ends. And then we come to a really open cavern that looks pretty nice, but has depressingly little game design. Really, we just jump from jellyfish to jellyfish, and when we find dry land, we hit enemies. That's this whole cavern. It does give me time to talk about something weird with this game's theming, though. Almost all of the other levels are based on pre-movie SpongeBob, or very early SpongeBob. But this level is unmistakably Karate Island. And to me it seems like it doesn't really fit, because the Karate Island episode took place long after the tone change that SpongeBob went through. Before we proceed forward, we're going to come down here on these Flying Dutchman crates because there's an extra. And this extra, I think, is our very first 5-up. And this should put us exactly at 99 lives. It's only possible to go up to 99, though. You can't reach 100. The only reason we're at 99 right now is because when I practice this level, of course, I grab more of those 5-ups. And those save even after I quit the level and try to record it. This game does seem to use extra life collection as a means to increase satisfaction, so it's a shame that you can't go over 99. It's also a shame that there are no references to the episode that this level is supposedly based on. And no, I don't mean Karate Island. I mean the episode where SpongeBob and Sandy are practicing karate all day, and Mr. Krab gets really upset. Now, I understand why they went with Karate Island, because you can't really make a level out of that episode, but there could at least be references to it somewhere in here. But I guess Sandy's one-liners will have to do. I think this fight we're having right here is supposed to be really difficult, by the way, but it's not. Mostly because they only send one enemy type at you at a time. Except at the end here where they send all the big enemy types at you. But that's not hard either.
Who's next?
Here's a Texas-sized barbecue chop with extra hi-ya!
Yeah, that must be what they call a flavor explosion. I'm assuming no one's using that wall either.
Okay, SpongeBob, not only did you already make that joke, but clearly no one is using that wall. I mean, it wasn't even a wall, it was just a stone spire. Okay, so you know that thing I said about this level having the best design outside the Squidward boss? I just remembered this part, and I might have to change that statement. It's just a really, really long boat ride where enemies occasionally drop down to fight you. And the fighting in this game by itself is not very good. It's certainly not terrible, though. And it's much better than in the DS version of this game, which is just a bad beat-em-up. There is something else we can do while we're on this boat, at least. We can shoot these little pink targets with our cannon shot. And if we do so successfully, we make platforms appear for later. I want to do it while the enemies are attacking us, because if I do it afterward, the boat will start moving again, and I might not have enough time to aim. We have so much health at this point that we could probably just spam the A button and make it through this just fine. There are 2 more pink targets here that we could also hit when the boat stops next time, but we're going to try and hit them now instead. The cannon shot has a very limited range, by the way. Like, surprisingly limited. I have to wonder if that was only for this section. Because I can't really imagine any other section where the limited range would be important. I can't believe I'm still actually talking about the game design. Speaking of the game design, but not really, this is the last big fight in the game. After this, any other fights with Plankton's robots will be very minor. This is because said fights will be part of the final boss, where they're not actually the main challenge. You know, talking about this video game for this long really does stuff to your brain. Or rather, does stuff to my brain. I feel like completely detached from my body right now. Like I'm just a ghost orbiting SpongeBob and all I can do is talk about what he's doing. And then when I'm done doing this, I will wake up and go play some Gundam Versus or something. There are 2 more pink targets we need to shoot in this last area of the river, but no enemies this time. And I'm sorry, it's only 1 pink target apparently, but yeah. There are no enemies in this half of the river. But shooting this last pink target will make the last green platform raise that we need to get the 5-up. This will be our second and last 5-up in the game. I swear I remember there being a 10-up somewhere, but I might just be hallucinating that. I might just be hallucinating this right now, this thing I'm doing that seems really strange. Because who does this? Who records commentary for a SpongeBob Let's Play at 5 AM? Nobody does that. Where were we? There's 1 more hallway left, and then 1 more big room, and then we will reach the boss of this level, or rather the mini-boss. But first, let's destroy these crates in a very specific fashion, so that way we can platform up and get the buff SpongeBob power-up. Which is kind of a waste. There's not that many enemies left before the end of the level, and we can't carry the buff SpongeBob power-up into the mini-boss for some reason. Even though we've used buff SpongeBob on bosses and mini-bosses before. If you sometimes hear SpongeBob's voice clips clipping in and out, I don't know why that is. The disc looks fine. Maybe it's because I'm playing this on the Wii U currently. You know, so you could get this video in crisp 1080p. Here's the last timer in the game. We just have to hop up these wooden poles, and to this timer's credit, if we didn't jump as quickly as possible, we wouldn't make it in time. But we can actually skip around the water and some of the poles by using our double jump, which we're gonna do a few times. But hey, you know, if you weren't jumping around the water, this would actually be kind of hard. But they might expect you to jump around the water, I can't be sure of that. I got caught in this last stream because my depth perception really messed up, and I don't think that was the game's fault. It's time for another Patrick power-up in another hallway. The game really seems to like these. But maybe it's just the last hurrah, you know, because this is the last hallway in the game. So say goodbye to the hallways. And say goodbye to Patrick and all the power-ups except for the buff SpongeBob power-up, because we're not done with him yet.
Boing, boing, boing. That'll put a little spring in your step.
Are you sponge enough for the final challenge?
Oh, I think you'll find that quite absorbent.
The Demento boss here, in spite of having a really cool name, is my least favorite boss fight. He spins around the room 2 or 3 times, and then he's vulnerable, and then he spins around the room 2 or 3 times again. The boss fight mostly involves a lot of waiting. He does fire shots at you while he's vulnerable, and after he's vulnerable before he starts spinning. Like right here, he's vulnerable, but he also fires shots at us. And then after we hit him, he'll start firing shots again. And I suppose this is meant to add variety to the fight, but it just makes it drag on really long. Because he repeats this pattern until he goes down, which is 6 times. I mean, even 3 times would be pushing it since he doesn't change his pattern any. It's still not a bad boss fight, but it's about as overwhelmingly average as a boss fight can physically be.
I got a long distance whooping. Will you accept the charges?
Oh, I'll accept the charges, but you got the wrong number, sister! Yes, I believe you ordered the rodent punch. Well, I got it. I remember, Patrick. The formula is somewhere in the Krusty Krab. I'm 99.9% sure of it. Oh, but what if I'm wrong? It could be anywhere in the Krusty Krab. That place is full of great memories. I remember when I got my first promotion. Oh! I got it! Oh! Of course! Now I remember. I put the formula in the safe. After all, Mr. Krabs told me to put it somewhere safe. Ah! Boy, I love it when things work out.
Sponge fool! Little did you realize that while desperately trying to keep me away from the formula, you've only succeeded in leading me directly to it. And now that I know its precious location, your beloved Krusty Krab is doomed! And all before lunchtime.
What?
Ah, my brilliant plan has struck you speechless, I see. I think the words you're searching for are, Plankton, you're a genius. Well, SpongeBob, you and your holes will have to excuse me. There's a secret formula out there with my name on it.
Mr. Krabs is the only name on that formula.
Not when I get through with it. Watch your fingers!
Oh, goody! Oh, and I've come so far! I won't let Mr. Krabs down now!
From the tulips!
So if I had to describe the final boss with Planktobot, I would say it's easy and also kinda cool. We have to keep following alongside him until he sees us and tries to attack us directly, but this always happens at a fixed point. When he first notices us, instead of attacking us directly, he'll shoot out some of his robot minions. It's not a lot of them either, so they're not hard to fight. If there's a billboard blocking our next jump, we need to wait until it's destroyed. And we need to wait until it's destroyed completely, because sometimes the barrier will still be there if we jump too early. So here's the part where we get a chance to attack Plankton. First he has to attack us though. He has 2 attacks when he starts hitting us directly. He has a bullet spread which we can easily jump over. And after his bullet spread he'll smash us with his fist. His fist homes in on us, but we can avoid it just by running around. And after we hit the fist we can use the gum wad to enter the robot itself.
It's over, SpongeBob. I deceived you. I outsmarted you. I won!
So this is probably the most heroic and action-packed thing SpongeBob has ever done outside of the first movie. That is, of course, unless you put this in the same continuity as the earlier Heavy Iron SpongeBob games. In which case this is kind of mild. We have to destroy these 3 plankton-shaped generators before we can attack the heart directly, since they are powering its shield. And there's a buff SpongeBob power-up in here that we can only get once, and use that to attack the heart. Since the other 2 phases are pretty much exactly like that one, I'll do you the favor of skipping to the final phase.
I'm gonna crush you so bad, SquarePants, you're gonna have to eat through a straw.
That's how we do things downtown.
Woo! SpongeBob! What is this? Some kind of mutiny? Why aren't you flipping patties for the big celebration? Time is money!
It was so horrible, Mr. Krabs. I was trapped inside Plankton's evil machine, and there was no bathroom in there.
What are you talking about, lad?
Well, Mr. Krabs, a funny story. I thought I lost the secret formula.
Lost the secret formula? I told you to put it in the safe! This is a mutiny!
Don't worry, Mr. Krabs. I said I thought I lost the secret formula, but I didn't. I did put it in the safe. I put it. I was 100% sure. Oh, Mr. Krabs. I feel dizzy. I can't breathe. I can't feel my legs. Oh, wait. Here it is. Ah! It was in my back pocket the whole time.
Hey, that's me lottery ticket! Oops! I guess I never gave you the formula after all. Ah, here it is! It was in my back pocket the whole time!
Your back pocket of the...
10 years of frustration. 10 long years of chasing after that formula. I almost had it that time, too. Oh, the anguish, the humiliation. Ah! Well, I'll try again tomorrow.
So that was it for SpongeBob Truth or Swear on the Nintendo Wii. And I hope you guys had fun watching it, because honestly, it's a fun game. It's not outstanding, but it's fun. And sometimes you just want to play a fun linear 3D platformer, right? SpongeBob Truth or Square's got you covered. I'll see everyone next time.
Have you seen my reading spectacles?
Reading pectorals?
Never mind.
You're my favorite. I'm gonna call you Freckles. Don't run from my love net. It's bigger than the both of us.
Keep on the lookout for one slightly confused and very lost superhero. He might be wearing an earmuff over one eye.
Monica boy, where are you?
I'm not gonna hurt you, little jellyfish. I just want to keep you in a jar on top of my television.
Mermaid Man, do you remember that time we cornered that evil tiger shark guy? What was his name?
Was it Mermaid Man?
Never mind.
call you Freckles, 'cause you're Freckles. Freckles are funny. Stop swimming so fast! I've only got 5 legs, and one of them's my head. Hey, look at me! I'm jellyfishing! Don't run from my love net! It's bigger than the both of us! If there's anything more fun than jellyfishing, I haven't found it yet! I want to pet the pretty jellyfish! Don't run away, little jelly clam! You complete me!
Just make sure you turn off the lights when you leave.